We're back, baby.
Yep, we are.
Back again. Night Brothers commentary coming to you on a rainy Sunday in beautiful Indiana. Out looking at houses earlier today. It was a dump,
Yeah, that's one way of putting
to
it.
say the least. It was a dump. We're going to pass on it, but that's okay. We're back. We're excited to be doing the podcast again.
Yeah.
And tonight Matt's got a lot of notes here, so
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to get through all this.
Yeah.
This may be a 2 or 3 part series,
Yeah.
just depending upon how things
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about illegal immigration,
Yeah.
and some of Matt's thoughts and his plans for
Yeah.
maybe addressing this very polarizing and hot topic issue that
Yeah,
we're
a hot
facing.
button topic.
Yeah, it's a hot button topic, no doubt about it. And as we always say, we'll do our best to post the show notes. And certainly neither of us is claiming to be an expert. We're just sharing thoughts and ideas on how we think we can address these problems that obviously affect a lot of people. So with that, Matt, I'll let you kick it off. We'll jump right in.
Alright, so to be honest, I kind of want to just get this out of the way.
Okay.
When it comes to probably the number one talking point that the Trump administration and probably coincidentally the Bush administration as well, I mean, for me, I would say the biggest issue when it comes to illegal immigration that a lot of people think of is the border wall.
Yep.
And, I mean, we've talked about this in the past, just kind of on our own.
Yeah.
And I think both of us have just kind of come to the conclusion that a border wall won't work. It just won't work because when you compare it to countries like Israel or Greece, guess what? Their borders aren't necessarily that long in comparison to the U.S.-Mexican border. I mean, take the wall at no, it's not Gaza. It's Gaza. No, not Gaza. It's the West Bank. The West Bank border wall is like around 400, 500 miles.
Yeah.
So, and it's all like one climate. So that just makes construction and patrolling the wall that much easier.
Yeah.
As opposed to, shall we say, a border that has so many different ecosystems, and it's like 2,000 miles long.
Yeah. Well, and I think, Matt, you're right. I mean, we've talked about it, as Matt mentioned, that, it's not anything against necessarily the Trump administration for trying, but the wall just doesn't seem like the best solution because people that are trying to come over here for whatever reason are fleeing something and they're moving towards something. I think, enforcing the immigration laws that we have, doing a better job of that might be a place to start. Also, and I know some people will say it's controversial how we're getting here, but more recently, Trump threatened tariffs on Mexico.
Which I also think is stupid.
Okay, well, and we haven't vetted this out, so let's talk through it. Yes, I'm not a fan of the tariffs necessarily, but some of the most recent reports are saying that now Mexico is coming to the table and saying that they're going to employ military to start patrolling the border a little bit better on their side.
As they should.
I'm
not saying they should. But I just don't think that tariffs was the right play. I really don't.
Okay, but Matt, the threat, he didn't employ any tariffs.
Yeah. He was going to if they didn't come to the bargaining table.
Right.
There's no question that he would.
But I think what he's trying to say is that, okay, doing business with America has benefited their country, much like it has a lot of other places.
Yeah.
And we're having to pay the price because our economy is stronger and because the jobs are here. People are trying to flood into our country, and understandably so. You and I can't relate to the situations that they're fleeing.
Yeah.
But what he's saying is, okay, Mexico, if all your citizens are going to try and flood into our border...
Well, it's not just Mexican citizens.
It's everybody from Central and South America coming up through Mexico.
So it's not just Mexicans. But the problem that I have with tariffs is the fact that if you place tariffs on the Mexican economy, not only does it potentially hurt their economy, which makes their economic situation worse, and thus even more likely that more immigrants from Mexico, in addition to other places in Central and South America, So not only do you make that worse,
Man, I get it.
but you also weaken our economy too.
Well, it's a tax on American
It's a
consumers.
tax on American
and
consumers.
And I get that, but what I'm saying is, okay, in this political climate, Trump is trying to, in my opinion, exhaust options that allow us to find some sort of solution. I think the threat of the tariffs was a calculated risk on his part. I think he was saying, we're willing to risk adding a tax on consumers and potentially weakening the Mexican economy to a degree. In addition to
ours.
Well, yeah, I mean, but our economy's been pretty good. You know, a 5% tariff. Again, it affects consumers. I get it, but
well, it's not just. I mean, it's not. It was not only going to be a 5% tariff. He was going to increase it every single month to like at least 25, if not potentially more.
Then let me ask you this: How else do you get Mexico to stand up and be an ally? Because people are flooding into their country too.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're not.
And so I guess what my thinking is that both Mexico and U.S. are dealing with an immigration challenge. Yeah, because people are coming, whether they're staying in Mexico or not, they're traveling through there, and that comes at a price.
Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't.
I
just don't think tariffs was the right move. I think cutting foreign aid might have been a better ploy.
Yeah, and Matt, you could be right. All I'm saying is that it looks like, at least in this particular example, something good may come out of it. Where
maybe,
right, and that's, you know.
I mean, I get the reasons why he was threatening the tariff. I do. I'm not saying Trump isn't right to put the pressure on Mexico. I'm just saying the tariff wasn't necessarily the right bargaining tool.
And you may be right. But I would prefer that to us continuing to have this wall conversation.
Absolutely.
It's just going to drag on. I mean, the construction of the wall is going to take forever.
And then maintenance is just going to be... I mean, maintenance is going to probably cost even more than construction.
It's a humanitarian crisis. We're talking about people that their lives are... They're struggling, and they want to come here, and there has to be a certain level of understanding and empathy for those people.
But at the same time, you still have to enforce the laws.
You do. Because otherwise we become just basically it's chaos. It's chaotic, and nothing is fair and just.
Absolutely.
And that's what the laws are supposed to be there for. So that when somebody gets in that line to migrate to this country legally, they're not cut by everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about, because it's not just Mexico and Central and South America, it's people from all over the world that, are trying to come to this country for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we were born here
and
are citizens, but I can certainly understand why people want to come, and there should be a proper way for them to come. So, we've already spent 10 minutes.
We already spent like 10 minutes talking about this.
So I
would say, for me, the one thing that I actually kind of do agree with Trump on is establishing a points-based system.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. I mean, a lot of countries, even Canada, do have a points-based system. So let's just throw that out there.
Yeah.
And my system is basically going to be divided into 2 tiers.
I got to throw something in here.
Yeah.
It's funny how we're talking about Trump.
Yeah.
And we're talking about something that he is a fan of, the points-based system that Canada uses.
Yeah.
And people always they always talk about Canada when it comes to healthcare, which Trump is not a fan of. So it's funny how people will say, "Oh, we should be more like Canada," when it comes to healthcare. But then we talk about Canada and an immigration law, and I guarantee you those same people are going to say, "Oh, wow, that's terrible." It'd just be funny to find out. Anyways,
that could be true.
Yeah.
But Canada does have, Canada's immigration system is recognized internationally as like one of the best.
Yeah.
So, clearly they got something right in both healthcare and immigration. So, essentially, my system would be.
There's a lot less people too. But
yeah, fair enough. My system would be divided into 2 tiers: one for high-skilled workers and one for low-skilled workers. So basically, I mean, you have like a whole bunch of stuff that applies to each specific tier, but you also have stuff that applies to both.
So when you say high skilled versus low skilled, what is give me because it
low,
sounds derogatory.
I mean that's probably fair.
Is there a better way to say that?
Yeah, I would say for someone who has like a college degree, is probably going to be more like tier 1, whereas someone who
maybe like a STEM field versus a
okay. Yeah, versus someone like working as like in landscaping or agriculture or something like that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so for examples, you have to take a citizenship test just like you do normally. Mm-hmm. But so let's say if you get a perfect score, you get like 2 points versus any other passing score is like 1 point. Another thing would be an exceptional employment record.
Okay.
So basically, if you have like received promotions or have long-term employment with any single employer, or if you've actually like gone up, like if you've like moved up and like if you like I don't know if you've gotten like
leadership role or
not just leadership roles, but also just going like from a lower tier position like agricultural or landscaping, that's what you mentioned before. But like worked up, like getting like on an education and actually like doing STEM field stuff.
So basically, you're giving people, you're meriting them for the work that they've done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, and that's essentially what the merit-based system does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's trying to attract more.
Well, I think that I guess my way of the reason I'm asking these questions that may seem nitpicky is I think even just the terminology you use. A merit-based system sounds better than a points-based system. Because the points-based system sounds really subjective. But if somebody says, merit-based, it's like, okay, well, what's that based on? Well, if you're going to go in for an operation, do you want the guy who has a degree in anesthesiology or the guy who graduated high school?
Yeah.
You're going to go with somebody who has the merits to do the job. Yeah. And I think that's what we're talking about here is that, we want to attract people that are desiring to be a positive, influence.
Yeah, regardless of where they come from.
Absolutely.
I mean, so another example that both tiers can actually use to gain more points would be civic involvement. So if you have like a whole bunch of like community service in either the U.S. or from your home country, that'll also give you some points.
Okay.
Because it's not just about having skilled workers; it's also about trying to get people who actually care about making a difference within their communities. I mean, that's also something that we have to consider.
Yep.
But kind of moving on from that, we're going to go to tier 1 now. For educational purposes, in tier 1, let's say someone has a master's degree. That will give them like 10 points as opposed to a traditional bachelor's degree, which will probably just give them 5 points. And a high school diploma or GED will essentially just give them 2 points.
Okay. And are these points based on any system that's currently implemented, or are you getting the points that you're using here arbitrarily, or is it based off loosely the Canadian model?
I would say it's mostly the Canadian model, but I did change some of the points around just to try to favor stuff like employment and education.
Okay.
I mean, and another thing that, I don't know. I would say probably the next big thing that I would say that tier 1 is really going to hit heavy on is entrepreneurship. If you're an alien or an immigrant who employs at least 2 people in either a zone 4 or a zone 5 occupation, you will receive 15 points.
The equivalent of a PhD.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily. I mean, zone 5 applications are kind of like PhDs, masters. So kind of like biochemists, dentists.
I'm saying that what you're awarding the entrepreneur is 15 points if they employ 2 of those people. Yeah. 15 points is also what you earn if you have a PhD. So I'm saying that. So whether you have the education piece or you're a successful entrepreneur, it's roughly the same.
Yes.
Towards the point system.
Yes. So kind of going on the tier 2 now.
Mm-hmm. And tier 1, tier 2, we use that language. That's just basically what I was asking Matt about before. Is it the STEM field or is it more of, labor-intensive jobs?
Yeah, because I feel like, I think it's fair to try to because here's the thing. A lot of immigrants we have a lot of immigrants that have a bunch of high skills and a bunch of low skills. So I think it makes sense to try to have 2 different systems that both can actually shall we say, have a reasonable chance of applying and getting.
We're not favoring tier 1 or tier 2. It's just there's two different methods of scoring people. It would not be fair to score somebody who works in the STEM field that has a master's, a bachelor's, and a PhD, and owns their own business and employs people, versus somebody who works in the labor field who might be highly successful there with the skills that they have.
Yeah,
so we're using two different scoring systems to not try and compare things that really don't have.
Yeah, because people with both kinds of backgrounds should be able to have a chance.
Exactly.
Of becoming a legal immigrant.
And both are extremely valuable to not only the culture, the workforce, the economy, etc.
Yeah. So I think it's only fair that we do both.
Agreed.
But another thing that I would say a lot of people want to get rid of is the diversity visa lottery, which is, from what I understand, and by all means correct me if I'm wrong, selecting around 50 random applicants from countries with low numbers of immigrants from the previous 5 years. And I think, I mean, by all means, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the system that we use to select people for green cards.
Okay. Random.
Yeah. So it's just kind of random based on which countries had people with lower numbers of immigrants.
I
think that's just that's just stupid.
I think it is too. I mean, listen, I'm talking about it at work all the time, talking about my own life. Diversity is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But that, to me, that is diminishing diversity. That's just saying, well, because you're from another country, you must have diversity of thought or feeling or whatever, which really is not the case.
Yeah.
Diversity. I mean, there's diversity in this room. You and I grew up in the same house, but we're very different. Yeah. It's really more about diversity of thought, feeling, ethnicity, race, gender, things like that. But I think more than anything, it's a different perspective, and you're probably better off, rather than randomly hoping that you're bringing new perspective into our country, you might be better off, taking a look at some of the merits that we're talking about.
Yeah. So kind of going back to the point system, there's a certain minimum amount of points that you have to get in order to apply for a certain thing. So let's say if you wanted to apply for an H-1B visa, if you are someone in the tier 1 level, you have to get at least 60 points, but 70 for tier 2.
Okay.
Or if you want to get like a green card or permanent residency, that will take at least 70 for tier 1 and then 80 for tier 2.
All right.
And if you want to just apply directly for U.S. citizenship and just skipping visas and permanent residency, which I think is also a fair. Because here's the thing. In order to actually get citizenship in this country, it takes a decade at least just to get your foot in the door. Yeah. So why do we do that?
It's a great question, man. Yeah.
So if you're someone who has a lot of education, a lot of work experience that could be valuable to both employers or potential employees, if you want to come here and start a business, why do you have to go for that entire lengthy process of getting a visa and then getting your green card and then applying for citizenship when you can just apply for it directly? Yeah. And I think that's a problem with our immigration system today. It's just so lengthy and complicated. It's just.
Well, I think the challenge is, Matt, and the reason it takes so long, and they have all this, red tape, so to speak, is that. So I don't have the stat. I'll have to look it up, but in terms of the number of people that we can actually, responsibly bring in and induct as citizens of the United States, and the number of people that want to come here from around the world and become U.S. citizens, it's a very small percentage of the total, supply, so to speak. The demand is so small in comparison that it's hard because there's so many people that want to come here, but in order for us to do that responsibly, we can only take such a small percentage.
Well, I know
so people get caught up in these. Well, I have my green card forever. I've had my visa for this long, or I'm just waiting, or yada yada yada, and it's because it's just a finite amount that we can actually do, and that's where I think people get most frustrated with the illegal immigration, is that Now, granted, we could do a better job enforcing the laws, no question about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there is a system in place, and the laws aren't that bad in terms of needing to be totally reworked. They need to be enforced, and when people come here illegally, it makes it impossible to do justice to all those other people that are trying to come here the right way.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is that for those people that are trying to come the right way, if we can expedite that process,
and it makes it more enticing to try to do it legally.
And the resources and time that we're wasting on all of that tape and blah, 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 can be applied to trying to help the people who are flooding in here illegally and figure out what we can.
It takes so much time and energy and resources.
It's a resource thing. Is the way I see it. Is that where do we want to apply our resources? Do we want a bunch of number crunchers sitting here going through red tape for 10 years in this process, or can we get something that helps us, for lack of a better term, vet out those people that are trying to come here, and then take those resources elsewhere to the real challenge that we have with legal immigration. That's affecting a lot of people. So
absolutely.
Well, is that all? Because I see we've got the next.
We got a lot.
Yeah. So I think this, unless you say otherwise, I think this is a good breaking point.
I think it is a good breaking point, to be honest,
for the first part, and then we can jump into some of this stuff. Next week.
Yep.
I think it was a good discussion.
Yeah,
obviously,
it's a good discussion.
We started with some kind of ad lib, not off the notes, but I think it's a healthy debate. Yeah. And hopefully we'll have an update in a week or so on where we stand with Mexico and the result of the tariffs and what their military and government is going to try and step up and help us fight. I shouldn't even say fight. Help us solve a problem that both countries are facing right now.
As they should.
The only way it gets done is if we do it together.
Absolutely.
Period. So we'll see. We'll provide an update on that, and then we'll dive into some more of this stuff next week.
Yep.
Awesome. Signing off.
Yep.